What's up, guys? Coming at you hot for a special edition here on Friday, right before UFC 225. This is Head Kick Radio. I am your host, Stephen Dudley, and I got my boy here as always with me, Justin. Justin, what's up?
Not too much, man. Really excited for this event coming up this weekend, man. First live UFC event that I've ever been to. Really, first live any combat sport, boxing, cage fighting, anything. I've never been anything like this before, and obviously since we're doing this podcast, it's something I'm passionate about, so I'm very excited. What about you? Have you been to amateur, pro? You been anything like this before?
Well, we discussed this, I think, in episode 1. I've been to amateur. I've been to Bellator. I've been to Cage Warriors, stuff like that. So it's not my first rodeo, but it's definitely a different feel in the arena. Like the energy, you can feel the energy from these fights. It's the same thing. Like if you growing up and you watched, kids on the playground throwing down, and you remember how excited you used to get just because one, you're not involved, so you're not getting beat up, hopefully, unless they got a bunch of rowdy friends. Right. And two, it's like that, but like watching guys with skill. Like on the streets, it's just a bunch of punk kids that are throwing haymakers from the ground as hard and far as they can, so telegraphed. But it's so cerebral and so competitive inside of a cage that it's exciting to watch. I'm jazzed up to be here. That's why we're doing this one last special episode, throwing a couple at you each week, the first couple of weeks, and then we're going to get back to our one a week podcast. That'll be every Monday. So don't expect always to have a special episode, but whenever we can drop one for you guys, we will, because we enjoy doing it. But this is more big news, man. Michael Bisping's retiring. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't think it was much of a surprise that he retired. It stinks for the UFC. It sucks for the sport because dude was a gamer. 30-9 career record as a pro. When he beat Josh Haynes to win Ultimate Fighter, Team Ortiz versus Shamrock, that put him at 11-0. So you do the math there. So 19-9 in the UFC. Had a great career. Finally became a champion. And stuff like that.
Yeah, he was on the Ultimate Fighter 2. But think about it. Diego Sanchez was on Ultimate Fighter 1. He's still going at it.
Yeah. It's crazy. He's had a hell of a career. He's always been entertaining. Whether I've been rooting for him or against him. I'm not gonna lie. When it was Ultimate Fighter UK versus US, I was Team Hendo all day, man. It was the US versus England.
Which,
you know what I mean?
We talked about highlight knockouts. How about Hendo highlight knockout on Bisping? Bisping, he's one of the guys who's seen the top of the peak of the mountain, winning the title, but he's also seen the lowest of the lows by being a highlight reel knockout. Like nobody ever wants to be on the end that receives that, and Bisping unfortunately was when it came to Hendo's H-bomb.
Yeah, and I think other people have talked about this before, but I'm pretty sure Dan Henderson turned that into his logo.
He did. I saw him wearing a hat.
It's a highlight knockout that will be on reels till the end of time. But
I was kind of hoping Bisping would get one more shot, like give it one more go. Maybe like the Luke Rockhold trilogy fight. I know he said he didn't want to fight Vitor because he didn't want to fight cheaters, and I don't blame him, but I was kind of hoping he would give one more go. Maybe like if he could fight if he could get Gastelum again. I felt like the Gastelum that beat him, that knocked him out, wasn't the Bisping that should have been fighting, after that loss to GSP. So I'd like to see him run it back with Gastelum, but Gastelum would never do that.
We talked about how he kind of took that on super short notice, which he totally did. He lost to GSP on...
Yeah, and 3 weeks later he fought Gastelum.
On November 4th, and then, November 25th, he fights again, which, I don't know too much about... That just can't be good.
No, not
for the
your
body or brain or anything like that. That can't be good. But that also speaks. We've talked about this before on practice podcasts and stuff like that. That's why we love these certain fighters, because he is such a gamer. He just lost his belt, could have been possibly a career low, and then screw it, let's get back in and let's do it. Like,
yeah, he wanted to get back to earn that title shot again. So kudos to him. He saved the card,
and it wasn't even on a pay-per-view. It was a fight night in
Shanghai.
Yeah, in Shanghai.
Yeah, he saved that card. Like, they needed somebody to save that card. Bisping's the ultimate company man for UFC. He went in and saved that card.
I mean, and people will probably say that his championship might have been like a sham since he stepped in to fight Luke Rockhold for the belt, since Weidman, I think that was when Weidman was having his neck problems and stuff like that.
Well, I have a theory of why I don't think it is a sham, even though...
I don't think it's a sham either. He definitely earned a title shot. He was on a 3-fight win streak.
Yeah, when he beat Anderson
Silva.
Yeah.
Now, I will say...
It's not Anderson Silva of his
fight,
prime.
Well, it's not Anderson Silva in its prime, but Anderson Silva did knock him out at the end of the second round.
See, that's what's even more... No, I think it was like third or fourth.
Whatever.
Whenever he didn't have his
Bisping came back and
in.
won that fight for sure. Bisping came back and won that fight. But I probably would have stopped the fight if I was a ref. But I'm not a ref, and I'm glad Bisping got his chance to come back, and he did, and he looked incredible in that
I was about
fight,
to say, how wild.
Won.
He got knocked out and came back in the same fight and still won.
It was incredible. I remember watching that. I'm like, okay, Anderson, just put some pressure on him. Like you said, it was probably at the end of the second round or third round, whichever one it was. And the next round, I totally expected the Spider to come out and put some pressure on him, and he didn't, and that's his mistake, and Bisping capitalized on it. That just proves to you that, like, Bisping is just an animal. Like I said, I went through my spurts with him where I liked him, and then I didn't like him, and then, I don't know, for the last 5 or 6 years, I've just been a fan. I mean, he was one of the first guys that, because, I mean, Ultimate Fighter 2 was all the way back in 2006, so 12 years ago. I mean... So I was still relatively new. I wasn't as into the sport as I was now, but, you knew who Michael Bisping was and stuff like that because he was the loudmouth guy from England and stuff like that, talking crap to everybody, and it was incredible. I mean, so my question to you, is he a Hall of Famer? A UFC Hall of Famer?
1,000% yes, he's a UFC Hall of Famer. He's the reason why I think the UFC is as big as it is, because if you're, like we're saying, when Ultimate Fighter 1 happened, the Stephen Bonner, Forrest Griffin fight, that's what put the UFC on the map. Like, that's what brought in all the casual fans. So then when season 2 rolls around, you have to put out another fantastic product. Season 2 had so many good competitors on it. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but it was headlined by Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping is such a character that's why he's succeeding on television right now as an analyst, is because people love to listen to him talk. So not only could he talk, but he fought against the who's who of the 185-pound division throughout the steroid era. So that's why, to me, he deserved that title shot, getting the short notice call on Luke Rockhold. And he lost to Luke Rockhold by submission a couple years prior. And so they already had a little bit of, heated rivalry from before, so it didn't take much to rekindle that thing on short notice. And then when he came out and then boxed Rockhold's head off because Rockhold was being too cocky, too confident, that and he won the title, then that just solidified it.
I mean, even leading up to that fight, Rockhold was all like, "We know what happened last time, Bisping." Like, I'm pretty sure he hit him with a rear naked choke in one of before Bisping finally beat him. He like choked him out.
Yeah, it was a guillotine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was a guillotine.
But yeah, no, Rockhold is a dangerous, dangerous man, and for Bisping to go in there and knock him out and win the title, that solidified him as a Hall of Famer. And then fighting Dan Henderson, who deserved the a title shot long before too, because he was a 2-weight champion in Pride back in the day. Like, that fight was a legacy fight, I would call it. Then he gets another legacy fight, with GSP, and then loses the title, unfortunately. But GSP is just another animal. We can all agree with that. And then to be the ultimate company man again and step in and save the Shanghai card just so Shanghai, China can have at least a decent headliner, because the rest of that card wasn't that great. And what Bisping did for the company throughout his whole career, he's fought Tim Kennedy, he's fought Rockhold, he's fought Alan Belcher, he's fought Vitor Belfort, he's fought Brian Stann, fought Chael Sonnen, fought Jason Mayhem Miller, who's another wild character. Like, I mean, he's fought Vanderlei, he's fought Dan Miller, Chris Lieben, Rashad Evans. Like, this dude has fought every big name in the 185-pound division. Anderson Silva, like we said earlier. So I feel like if you can win a lot of those, even if you don't win a title, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame if you're fighting the who's who. So, like, he has multiple different avenues of credentials to why this guy's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think regardless of him winning the belt, I think the belt solidified him being a Hall of Famer, essentially. Now, like you said, the Dan Henderson title defense was more of like a legacy fight, but that's a fight people wanted to see again. I mean,
that fight was more for Dan Henderson. Let's be real.
Well, I mean, it was his retirement fight, but Bisping also wanted to,
to avenge that nasty knockout loss.
Yeah. Exactly, because like we said, Dan Henderson made that his logo and stuff like that, and I mean. And what happened in that fight was very similar to the Anderson Silva fight. He got hit a couple times and came back and still won that fight.
Yeah, because that was a close fight. Dan Henderson he could have won a decision, depending on who was scoring it.
I don't remember. Was that a
that was a close
split?
One. No, it was a unanimous decision for Bisping, but it was a close one. Like where some people were arguing that they thought Dan won. I mean, I thought Bisping won, but I just remember reading, all the tweets and. Some of the articles people thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Dan Henderson's quote where he was like, "If it went based off looks, like he would have won," and that's very true. I mean, I don't want to talk about two different fighters, but I mean, same thing goes for like the GSP, Big Rig Hendricks fight. Like
Big Rig.
If you went based off looks, you would have thought GSP got pieced up for 25 minutes, but. Dan Henderson and Johnny Hendricks, like that's why they say don't let it go to the judges. Then don't leave a doubt in their mind because, and honestly, Bisping could have gotten some home cooking because it was in England and he's undefeated in England, which that's another thing that like people don't talk about is there was this picture that I was trying to find before we started. I should have saved it. I'm sorry that I don't have it for you, but
send it to me. I'll blast it out.
He fought in like 9 different countries. And, I mean, undefeated in England. He's obviously fought in the United States bunches of times. I mean, he fought in Shanghai. He's fought in Scotland. He's fought in Canada. He's fought in Australia.
Yeah, Sydney.
He's fought in Brazil. I mean, he's fought everywhere in the world for the UFC. And, I mean, and like I said, even if he would have just retired after the Anderson Silva fight, like, oh, my God, I just beat arguably the greatest 185er of all time. Like I'm good in England. Like I'm good. Like I think he would have been a Hall of Famer then. But because he became the champion, even if it was just for one title defense, I think that solidified him being a champion.
Dude, I mean, yeah, no doubt Hall of Famer. I feel honored to be able to watch most of his fights, and I look forward to listening to him on the mic now because the dude drops gold. Because he's still going to talk trash to some of these fighters, even though he's retired, and everybody's going to love to hear that. He's hilarious. He's a hilarious human being.
So there's one more quick question, since I think we can both agree that he's a future Hall of Famer and ambassador for the sport and England and stuff like that, of course. Would you be surprised if he ended 2018? He's got that itch. I'm coming back.
I was about to tell you that. That's where I wanted to end this. I'm telling you guys right now, there's going to be the one opponent, whether it's Luke Rockhold, whether it's Gastelum, whether it's GSP, whoever he just recently fought that needs a fight, or somebody needs to step up. I'm telling you, he's still going to be training. He's going to fight somebody. He's not really retired.
Well, I mean, Rockhold's going up to 205. Bisping probably doesn't want to make that cut anymore to 85. Right. So,
but we know Rockhold, had that cut on his shin that's real nasty. So that fight between him and Gustafson's off right now. So if Gustafson takes another fight and Rockhold needs a fight, who's there? Our boy Michael Bisping.
Yeah. So I was just okay. So I think we both agree on Bisping, Hall of Famer, probably gonna fight in the UFC one more time if we had to guess.
Yeah, he's gonna do it again. Yeah. I'm telling you, he's gonna do it one more time. He says he's done right now. He's gonna let a little time pass and maybe. I'm going to say probably 2019. He's going to fight in March of 2019, somewhere around
It's got to be in England, too.
Oh, yeah,
it's got to be in
definitely.
England.
What if he fights what if they put Conor Khabib in England or something, somewhere kind of out of the states, because he's not fighting in New York, that's for sure. Conor, that is.
Yeah.
So what if they go to London and then Bisping's like, yo, I want on this card.
Well, that's something we'll talk about. Actually, there was a story that came out yesterday about Conor and Khabib. We'll hit it at the end.
Let's hit it really quick. Right, we'll just talk on it for like 2 or 3 minutes here. So we talked GSP. So a story came out yesterday that the UFC was trying to make a 4-man, 155-pound tournament between GSP versus Nate Diaz 3, the trilogy fight, and then Conor versus Khabib. And then so it fell apart because GSP
has GSP fought Nate before? I thought it was Nick. I thought they were just going to put Nate against GSP.
Excuse me. I was thinking of Conor for a second. My bad. So it was GSP versus Nate. He's fought Nick before. So GSP, turned down the Nate Diaz fight, saying he wants the winner of Khabib versus Conor, which right now that doesn't even look like that's in the foreseeable future anyway. But that's kind of what shot down this 4-man tournament. So they said that they still might try to make it happen. But if I was the UFC, if it was me, I would do Conor Nate 3, because one, the fans want to see it, and I think that if you say it's a tournament, I think that'll get Conor back into it. But I think Conor needs a fight, and I just don't like the idea of throwing him out against GSP first or Khabib first, especially Khabib, because Khabib's still in the game, and Conor has been out for a little bit, minus the boxing match against Mayweather. He's been out for a hot minute. So I would like to see GSP versus Khabib, just because I think that their styles they're similar in a lot of ways, and they're both so high level. Whereas I think Khabib would have to take that one to the ground with GSP, because GSP is going to tear him up on the feet. So I feel like that one would go, but GSP's got great wrestling and great jiu-jitsu.
Well, I'd be very curious to see if GSP can make 155. That would be a first question. Mine. Second thing for me, I mean, we've talked about the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix and how awesome of an idea it is, and I love this idea of having this 4-man tournament
in the best division in all of fighting, 155,
hands down. But if you're Dustin Poirier or like these guys, you're probably sitting back like, what the hell? Nate Diaz has only fought Conor McGregor his last 2 fights. How come he's in? I would assume that would be for the belt. That wouldn't just be some tournament just for whatever. Like Khabib's the champion. I'm assuming that would be a championship tournament. But
no, see, if they called it an actual tournament, there would be no like.
He would still be the champion. Khabib would have to give up the belt then?
Only if he lost.
That doesn't make sense then. So then whoever beats Khabib is the champion?
Not necessarily, because let's just
so then who's the champion? If GSP beat him, then would GSP be the champion at 155?
No. Here's why. Because it's a tournament. So if GSP got Khabib in the first round, GSP, let's say, gets past Khabib, that means there's no champion right now. And then the winner of Conor and Nate get GSP, and the winner of that fight at the end of the year would have been the champion.
I mean, I don't really...
It doesn't make a lot of sense, but like it does make sense, because I always feel like when you do these little tournaments like this, like it doesn't make sense to me if you have like a tournament and then the winner fights the heavyweight champion kind of thing, or or whatever champion is the division. No, you have to put the champion in the division, in the tournament. And if the champion goes out in the first round, hey, you weren't really the champion in my opinion. I mean, you were, but you weren't.
So then you essentially just strip Khabib before the tournament. If this were to happen, I mean, this is all hypothetical here.
But why doesn't Tony have his title? That's the question.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're Tony Ferguson, Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier, if you're any of those guys, Kevin Lee, you're sitting there like,
we need an 8-man tournament.
Why the hell am I not in this tournament?
We need an 8-man tournament.
I mean, I don't. I mean,
that's kind of a slap in the face. You're right. That is a slap in the face.
Exactly, because you have to think the winner of the run back of Dustin Poirier, Eddie Alvarez, they have to be in line to get a shot at Khabib.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, and then Kevin Lee just came off a great win, nearly beat your boy Tony. We've talked about this before. And then, like you said, you have your boy Tony recovering from his injury.
If Kevin didn't have staff, he might have beaten Tony.
There's 3 legit contenders out there for him. I mean, and when I say 3, I mean the winner of Alvarez, Poirier, 2. So then, if the winner of that fight, you'd have 3 legitimate contenders without even talking about Conor McGregor or GSP.
Right.
So you could make a 4-man tournament with those 4.
That's true, and the winner gets the champion.
Like, I understand why Nate Diaz would be in this conversation because he is a draw, but if I'm in that division, I would be like, WTF UFC.
So do you think it was a mistake that the UFC let that news get out?
Not at all, because I think it got buzz talking about like, oh my God, is Conor Khabib like potentially going to happen? I don't really listen to any of it because we've been fans long enough that until something gets signed, this is all talk. And we heard about Brock Lesnar 6 months ago, and what have you heard of him since then?
Just a little rumor, just his name staying in the news. That's about it.
But it's not like, oh, he's potentially fighting blah blah blah. It's
I think he's going to fight John Jones. We're just waiting on the John Jones news to come out. But hang on, back to this tourney. That, I mean, it is so disrespectful. But like, let's be also real that it fell apart because GSP says his stomach ulcer is not better, and he doesn't want to jump into camp and make it worse again.
And I think I've said this before too. Like, GSP, just stay out of the news unless you're telling me you're fighting. I don't want to hear about your next excuse as to why you're not. Not excuse. Like, if you're sick, man, that's understandable. But, like, you weren't active for, 6 years leading up to this?
No, it was like 4.
Yeah, you weren't active for 4 years leading up to this. And then you always teased us with, I might come back. You came back, won the belt, and now if you have medical issues, that's one thing. But really don't want to hear from you unless you're fighting.
That's true.
Really don't want to hear from you. I mean, now you're one of my favorite, you're one of my favorite fighters of all time. But I hate getting teased, and then I've got to wait 8 months to hear about it again.
Do you want him though to fight Khabib before Conor, or fight the winner of Khabib and Conor?
I really don't know. I'll take any of those matchups, honestly. It doesn't bother me. If you could just give me Conor GSP, I wouldn't care for not even a belt, and just have Khabib fight one of Tony Ferguson, have one of those guys. Like, if you're just, I wouldn't be upset if either of those three fought each other. You know? So
we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's jump over to a little bit of Bellator talk here. So Bellator 200 happened a week ago, Friday. Yeah, I'm trying to get my dates right. Bellator 200.
May 25th.
Yep, it was in London. So it was great card, everybody. Headlined by Gegard Mousasi, former UFC fighter, challenging the champion Rafael Carvalho. Carvalho, he looks like he had a lot of potential. Like, he's a Brazilian, and I don't know what happened in that fight for him. Like, he just got smothered and then smoked by Gegard.
Yeah, I mean, it went pretty quick, man. It was only 3.5 minutes. I mean, well, not quick, but like, yeah, I mean, he's only the Rafael Carvalho. I struggle saying his last name. I apologize, but I mean, like, he's still young. I mean, it's not like he's, I mean, he'll be back, but then, I mean,
definitely be back. But man, Gegard showed why his experience, means so much in the ring, and that's why I can't believe he's not in the UFC.
Yeah. Well, okay, Rafael Carvalho, he's 31, but that's still young. I mean, he's still got.
We got to stop aging people. Like, look, and we're gonna get into this at the end of the show when we do our main event picks for the UFC 225 card, and you're gonna see that I come to my senses. But what I mean by the ageism thing is, look at Romero. I've never seen a 42-year-old move like that. But like, who's to say? He's from Cuba. Who's to say he's not even older? So let's stop saying 31 to 35-year-old people are old. They're not old. They're just experienced.
We've talked about this before. I mean, when it comes to fighting, that's potentially your prime. I mean, maybe not your athletic prime, but I mean, that's when you have all that experience and you can put it all together, and that's when your body can still do a majority of that stuff that you were, you know what I mean? Maybe not everything. You're not the athlete that you were when you were 23, 24. Of course not. But you have that experience, and you can. I mean, you're still. I mean, your mind is a sponge. You're still learning and everything, and it's, you just become so smart, and that's why I think it's not just the heavyweight division that, like, people, when they enter their 30s, like, oh, now these guys are entering their prime. Like, no, it almost seems like it's every division.
I mean, hence why GSP is so good. Why Michael Bisping was champion so late. Like, we got to stop calling these young 30-year-olds old. They're not old. And what I like most about this Gegard winning is this sets up Gegard versus Rory McDonald for probably the 185-pound belt and see if Rory can become a 2-division champ in Bellator.
Is that the biggest fight to make in Bellator right now, do you think?
No. The heavyweight Grand Prix right now is the biggest thing going. If anybody tries to say anything different, you're just fooling yourself. But
Okay.
I think
just figured I'd ask.
I think that's one of the biggest. It's top 2 or 3 for him for sure.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't watch before, but that'll definitely have me watching.
Ooh, what if you do an end of the year
Mousasi.
card? The heavyweight finalists as the main event, co-main event. You have Gegard versus Rory at the end of the year for Bellator.
And then just put Michael Page and then put Dylan Francis on that card, and then just
Dylan
Dennis. Sorry, Dylan Francis. I don't know why I said that.
You're creating
I apologize.
players. Justin's creative player for Bellator.
Yeah, I mean, that would be insane. I mean, way too early to call it. I mean,
I got Rory all day.
It seems like that's the fight they're going to make. But yeah, so you're probably going Rory. Yeah, I think this is the size.
But when I was watching, okay, let's go to the co-main event here. Not really the co-main event, but it's the co-main on the page because it wasn't the co-main of the night. But Michael Venom Page versus David Rickles. I love Big John McCarthy, and he's now an announcer for Bellator. He kept saying because David Rickles was trying to stand with Michael Venom Page, who's nasty with his kickboxing, and I mean it's just insane. And
his striking is unbelievable.
But it's fun to watch.
Very fun to watch.
But Big John throughout the whole thing kept saying Rickles is doing what he can to hang in here with Michael Venom Page, and I'm sitting here yelling at the TV like, no, he's not. Take him down. I'm sitting here just yelling at the TV. And Big John's like, but Big John wouldn't even say it. Like, and he's seen way more fights than I have. He's way higher level. He's a black belt, I do believe, in jiu-jitsu. Like, so he has more knowledge, more skill, and everything than I have. And he's sitting here saying David Rickles is doing what he can. I think you're just trying to sell that one for the fans, because if Rickles was smart, he would have just taken him down and ground and pounded him. I think Michael Page, he's 170 pounds. He's going to get torn up by an elite wrestler. That's when, and I see people on Twitter saying that he should go to the UFC. No, absolutely not. Because when you get in the UFC, Tyron Woodley, what? Come on, son. That dude's going to take you down and smash your skull into the canvas. He's not going to stand there and trade with you. And then plus, there's already 2, gangster karate kickboxers at 170 in the UFC that would tear this dude up. Darren Till and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So, like, everybody that's on this hype train of Michael Venom Page, and I like the guy. I think he's very entertaining. He has the best post-fight celebrations when he wins. But we got to slow our roll on this guy because he's not very muscular. So these dudes that are, physically stronger than him at 170 are going to take him down. Do I think he's a top 10 in the world? Absolutely. Do I think he's top 5? No.
Do you think he ends up in the UFC at some point?
Yeah, I mean, if he's got a good manager, he does, because that's where the money is for these, fighters. And I want Bellator to grow so big that they can actually surpass the UFC because of the Reebok deal and things like that. But Michael Venom Page, like he had an impressive knockout on David Rickles. Rickles, I've never seen somebody quit during a fight like that before.
Yeah, it
wasn't even in between rounds. He just quit.
Yeah.
Just told the ref he was done.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think it was just unfortunate for Bellator last week. Like we talked about before when we were recording, I mean, the winners were leaking. Or like we got an alert that Gegard had already won.
Yeah.
I mean,
so we knew.
I mean, yeah.
But I still watched.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, it's, it's what we do, and, we've got to break it down. But so what do you think's next for Michael Venom Page?
I mean, you have to give him a title fight, or at least a number 1 contenders fight, because he's just, I mean,
he'd be fighting Mousasi, but Mousasi
no, he'd have to fight Rory. Rory's the 170 champion. But that's what I'm saying.
Was Mousasi the 50
85. 85.
Oh, so Musasi's the one that's going down.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I for some reason I
but I don't think he's going down. I think Rory's going up. Rory's going to be a 2-division champ.
Okay.
So that's my guess. But there's other good fights, like Phil Davis with I believe, if I remember correctly, he had that nasty head kick on Linton Vassal, who's a really good fighter too. Phil Davis, man, there's no reason why he still shouldn't be in the UFC either. He's so nasty. And
bad string of fights, man. That's what'll happen, man. You lose 3 or 4 fights. You lose 3 out of 4, or a couple fights in a row. I mean, that's all it takes.
That's true, but remember when Phil Davis beat up on Gustafson, and then Gustafson started, going to train with him?
Yeah. I mean, Phil Davis. I mean, I've always liked Phil Davis.
So there's some real deal fighters in Bellator. We can't act like there's not. But there's another exciting fight that Bellator put on, and it was Aaron Chalmers versus Ash Griffiths. Forget about Ash. This Aaron Chalmers dude who submitted him in the first round, he used to be on, I believe it was like, he's on the 6th series of X on the Beach, which is a reality TV show. And he was also on Gordy Shore, which is like another, like this dude is a reality TV star. Like, so he brought fans from like reality television, to Bellator now. And what's kind of funny to me is because like I'm looking at the names right now. It's Gordy, Geordie Shore. So it's like Jersey Shore, but like the English version of it. And so like I was listening to him talk about this kid. I didn't have any idea who he was, but he's impressive. He's going to be good. He just needs more fights under his belt, and this kid's going to be really good.
Yeah, I mean, he's 4-0. I mean, he's undefeated. I mean, he's
5-0 now.
No, the Ash Griffins
was that his fourth fight?
Made him 4-0.
Oh, okay.
It made him 4-0.
He choked that dude out. Like, it was impressive. But his striking looked good, really good too. And I'm thinking, man, could you imagine this guy on a reality TV show just lighting dudes up? Because I remember watching like The Real World or something, and I can't remember what season it was. No, it was Jersey Shore. Excuse me. It was Jersey Shore, and Ronnie from the show like knocked this dude out, like club punched him, like ran him down in the street and just like club punched this dude.
Totally sucker punched him.
Yeah, could you imagine having Aaron Chalmers in your house, like in your reality TV house, and because like all these dudes get drunk and then they talk smack to each other, like they're gonna, like, oh, I could beat you up, and there's like that in the house beef. Could you imagine if this guy was in your house and you looked at him and you're like, oh, I'm gonna beat you up, and he just look at you and be like, he'll pull a Terrell Owens and be like, child, please.
Yeah, I wouldn't want any part of that, but we'll see what's next for him. I mean, that was his first fight in Bellator. I mean,
oh yeah, it's not his last.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe I don't know. I mean, do you give now? Like the curious thing was like a guy like this is like you said, he's a reality star. He's got a lot of stuff behind him, and you can build him up. Like
he's got a fan base.
Do you like the problem is like do you give him a smoker or do you give him a legit guy to see if he's
Well, see, this Ash guy's, I mean, he's not like the best. I mean, he's just a quality dude that he fought. So I wouldn't really call him a smoker. Like they gave him an in-between level. So I'd say give him one more in Bellator that's, probably got at least 10 wins, and let's see what he does.
Yeah. And then when I clicked into the Ash Griffiths page on sharedog.com, I mean, this dude's lost his last 4 fights.
Oh, so he's been on a losing streak. So then maybe they did give him a smoker then.
Yeah. Well, he's 4-4 in his professional career, or 4-5 now with the loss.
But at least he looked the part of a fighter, because some of the smokers don't even look the part of a fighter.
He's a pro. I mean, it's not like he's just fighting some amateur.
Yeah. Dude, it was a solid Bellator card.
Yeah. No, it was a good showing, especially for Bellator 200 and stuff like that. I mean, with the exception of the ESPN gaffe of sending out the Mousasi winner a little early.
Yeah, that was a bummer. We talked about that.
I feel like it was a really good show that they put on, and it's Bellator's got a bright future ahead of it. I mean, now it's starting to get some traction with you're gonna have a super fight with Mousasi and Rory, like you said, and then you've got their heavyweight Grand Prix going on. And you got Michael Venom Page and Dylan Dennis, and then
if Scott Coker would let me come work for him and try to negotiate some contracts, I would go around trying to steal like the Cage Warriors, champions, maybe some Thai guys, some Thai champions, some, they have Glory, they team up with Glory, like take some of the Glory guys, like when what's his name? Rogan's boy, would come over. I'm trying to remember his name. I'm drawing a blank right now. He'll come to me here in just a second. But like, I would go around and get all these other promotional champions, pay them some money, bring them over, because you're Viacom. You have a deep, deep pocketbook. So
who's to say that these guys, they get contacted by Bellator and they call the UFC like, hey, Bellator's trying to get a hold of us. we'll go to them unless you want to make a counter offer or something like that. And then I mean, who knows?
I'm just put the pressure on the UFC.
That's the business side of it, of course. Who knows what happens behind closed doors?
Yeah, I would get these other champions from other promotions, especially while they're young, and just see what you can do. Start building them.
Yeah.
Go overseas, get those champions too. Start building them.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say though that Bellator is not going anywhere and has a bright future ahead of it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So speaking of bright future here, let's talk about fight night Rivera Moraes real quick. Let's just touch on a few things here because, man, was this card was on cable, so it wasn't the greatest card, but there was some very good performances on here. I mean, it's kind of hard to say Marlon Moraes was a performance considering that it was only 33 seconds, but Jimmy Rivera was on a 20-fight win streak.
It was impressive is what it was.
One head kick. It was almost like it was the first exchange. It was like where they froze, because of course in every fight, anybody who's ever watched a fight, the first couple minutes are just feeling each other out, like getting the movement down, blah 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 blah. If you could knock somebody out with essentially one of your first strikes and stuff like that, I mean that just speaks to your talent levels. I mean, that's why Conor knocking out Jose Aldo was so impressive. And I mean,
he was a champion for a decade and got knocked out in.
But I mean, Jimmy
seconds. Rivera.
I mean, holy cow, that was crazy. I mean, Marlon Moraes, that head kick. I mean, and then the FS1 crew, they ran it back real quick and they gave you the sound. It was as clean of a head kick as I've seen. I mean, it was insane. He has to be in line to fight the champion now.
Yeah, the winner of TJ versus Cody Garbrandt. Yeah.
Or I mean, people were talking like, of course, you got Dominic Cruz out there and stuff like that. He's still out there. Or he lost a very close split decision to Rafael Assunção.
Give him a rematch.
Talking about Marlon Moraes, of course, in his first fight in the UFC, he lost a very close decision to Assunção. So if you want to kind of keep him on the back burner for a second, because all he was saying afterwards in his post-fight interview and everything was, I want to fight for the belt, I want to fight for the belt, I want to fight for the belt.
He deserves it.
Who can really argue with him?
Not this guy.
I mean, if he got the winner of Cody TJ, I wouldn't be upset at all. I mean, I think he deserves it. I mean, look what he did to Aljamain Sterling. Look what he did to Jimmy Rivera. I mean, this dude has dynamite in his hands and
beat legs. John Dodson too. Dodson's beat TJ Dillashaw. Assunció's beat TJ Dillashaw.
I mean, and you would argue that John Dodson has given Demetrious Johnson one of his better challenges to this day.
That's true.
He's still lost, but one of his better challenges. I'm talking about Dodson. Johnson won, of course. The second time, DJ just did his thing. But
no, that's so true, and I feel like Moraes deserves one. But my thing is you give him Dominic Cruz if, let's say, TJ beats Cody, for example, or Cody, whoever.
If Cody wins, you have to do a trilogy. You have to do a trilogy.
I mean, yeah, maybe depends on how he wins. But like, what if Cody wants to drop down and fight DJ? You know what I mean? Like, if the winner of that fight, I give him full permission to go down and fight DJ. Because I want to see DJ fight, in a super fight. I really do. And as long as a super fight doesn't happen, then Marlon has to get a title shot. If a super fight does happen, you give him Dominic Cruz. Plain and simple.
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of it depends on what belt it would be for and everything. But this is another division that like there's just so many contenders that like you can give it to this person. You can give it to if Cody Garbrandt wins the belt. And Dominic Cruz were to get a title shot, like, do you think anybody would argue?
No, because Dominic Cruz has built up a huge name.
If you know what I mean. But so back to what you said, you don't think, just real quick, I picked up on what you said there. You don't think if Cody Garbrandt wins, they'd run back a trilogy? I think you have to. If you're giving Cody Garbrandt a rematch this quickly, if he wins, they're 1-1 now. You cannot screw over TJ again like you did. You have to give him a trilogy fight.
TJ's been one of the most screwed over fighters in all of UFC history, so I could see him doing it again. What's gonna change? Like,
if Cody, and I mean, I guess a lot of it would depend on how Cody wins, but if Cody beats TJ Dillashaw, as much as I'm not a fan of Cody getting a rematch right away, I would want to see that trilogy fight because so now you'd be like, okay, they're 1-1 now.
But we're diehard fans. We definitely
Yeah.
would want to see it. So that's why that makes
So
sense.
I mean,
to
so
us.
what do you think happens for like a Jimmy Rivera, like after this?
Give him an Asuncao. Give him somebody else in line. I mean,
Yeah,
he's got to work his way back up, and he knows it.
Yeah, because Moraes seemed pretty adamant. Like, I want to fight for the belt. I don't want to fight anybody else besides
give him
fight for the
Aljamain.
belt.
Give him somebody.
Yeah,
He's got to get back in there.
Yeah, he will because I mean, even though he was knocked out, I mean, it seems like I feel like when stuff happens that quickly, the recovery's not as long because it happened so quickly. Maybe and he didn't take all those extra shots.
I don't know. I feel like when your brain gets that rattled by a head kick, you need to take a few months.
Well,
off.
I mean, then you saw he was trying to get up and he was getting hit in the side of the head, and then he face planted again.
Marlon's so nasty. He's so dangerous.
And I love the fact how he like waves off his own fight because I mean he knows it's over. He waves it off. That's his thing. I love it.
He seems like a good dude.
Very nice guy too. And it's that's why I would like him. I would like him to get a title shot in his next fight. I would like or be like you're in the interim title. Like if the super fight with Demetrious Johnson happens with whoever and the champion is in limbo. Be like, okay, you're in the interim title. I can't believe I'm saying
Give him
that.
Dominic Cruz. See, you're all against interim title fights, and here you are putting one together.
Well, because when a guy deserves it, he deserves it. I don't hold up a division. When you have a clear-cut contender, don't hold up the division.
That's true. And okay. I think that division should be held up for a super fight with Demetrious Johnson because everybody wants to see it. We all want to know.
Oh, absolutely.
Now we're questioning. I think fans are starting to question after he turned down the fight with TJ Dillashaw, Demetrious Johnson, that is, that we're starting to question, like, are you really better than Anderson Silva's longest title run?
Well, we
want to see you fight somebody.
I have an interesting thought. If it was Cody Garbrandt, I think he takes the fight.
I do too. I think he's as scared of TJ Dillashaw. I'm going to be honest with you. The TJ Dillashaw that lost to Asuncao.
Don't say scared.
Johnson,
he's the 10-time defending champion. I think he thinks it would be his toughest matchup for sure.
Okay, yeah. You're right. He's not scared. I think he's worried. He's worried he would lose, his streak would end. He'd lose his title because TJ Dillashaw, him and Dwayne are on another level with their striking right now. And TJ's a wrestler, so he has that base. TJ is so well-rounded that TJ scares me. And I'm, 205 pounds. He's 135.
Yeah, but I think if Cody Garbrandt, if we can get in a time machine and change history, if Cody Garbrandt finds a way to beat TJ Dillashaw back at UFC, whatever, I think the super fight with DJ happens, and I could even see DJ moving up to come.
That see, I mean, yeah,
because
he fought. Remember, he fought Dominic Cruz at 135 before the 125 pound division. He used to fight in the 135. Yeah. So hang on, let's go to the co-main really quick.
Yeah, I'll let you give your humble brag here because you talked about this one and I didn't see this coming at all. I actually thought this was going to be a lot closer fight than it was because both of these guys were on runs. But yeah, go ahead, take the mic here.
Okay, so everybody knows we've been bragging about the 155 pound division, especially in the UFC, for a long, long time, and I've been saying that Gregor Gillespie is potentially a future champion. Granted, he's 31 now, and we don't talk about ageism. So this dude is in his physical prime. And Friday night on the fight night, he showed it. That dude was unrelentless with his pressure. Like there's so many levels to wrestling and to pressure. And Gillespie, I think he's at the top. Everybody wants to brag about Khabib. I think that Kevin Lee has better pressure. Well, I'm kind of questioning
pressure, man.
I'm kind of questioning if Kevin Lee has Gregor Gillespie kind of pressure. So he just puts a clinic on Vince Pichel. And so when he choked him out in the second round, his jiu-jitsu just looks so nasty too. And it's so scary to think somebody has that kind of pressure and that kind of submission skills on the ground.
Yeah, he landed 7 out of 8 takedowns in not even 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is too, like I was saying, it's not like, was it Vince or is it?
Yeah, it's Vince.
Yeah, Vince Pichel. It's not like he's just some scrub. I mean, he was coming off. I think he was
like 11-1 or something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, and this dude has hands of steel. So maybe that speaks to how smart Gregor Gillespie is. Is like, okay, this dude's got hands for days. I just need to take this dude to the ground and then just take, and then an arm triangle. on top of the dude.
Yep.
Not even getting the side leverage that you usually need. I mean,
if you have a good arm triangle, you don't even need it.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, and I think that's what was it was Anik again, and I don't who was calling it with John Anik?
Jimmy Smith.
Yeah, it was Jimmy Smith. That's what they were even saying, and they said what you just said.
Jimmy Smith's a black belt.
If you've got it locked in and stuff like that, you don't need now. Side control will just make you crank it more, and the dude's gonna go out quicker. But if you're on top, if you are in full mount and you have an arm triangle, you know what I mean. You pretty much have it in the bag at that point.
Yeah, training under Jay Valco here before this latest back injury, he showed me some like really killer techniques to the arm triangle. And when I watched Gregor just, do it on Pichel, I was like, oh, this guy has deep knowledge on a lot of this.
And I did like it was kind of refreshing, even though I like fighters calling out other fighters. I liked how this dude was like, when I say this guy, I mean Gregor Gillespie. He was like, John, you know me. I'm not calling out anybody. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning.
He said, I'm not gonna call anybody for a fight. He goes, but I'll call out somebody to come, for a fish off or something against him. Because he's a big time fisher.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying this morning you saw on his Instagram, or a couple days ago you saw on his Instagram that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it was a couple of days ago that he wins the fight. He's up at like 6 a.m. the next morning, and the fight finished like midnight the night before. He ran 4 miles on the treadmill before his fishing trip. And he has like this, he got punched in the face a little bit. Has this nice little mouse underneath his eye. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, this is why this guy's on another level. Here he is running 4 miles, like 6 hours after just dominating a dude with unrelentless pressure. And now he's about to go fishing too. So everybody that's fished knows when you catch fish, you still got to reel those things in, and they put up a fight. So like there's a little bit of physical aspect to fishing too.
Yeah, it was just insane. I mean, it's almost like that's like the new thing now. Khabib didn't invent like unrelentless pressure. He didn't invent it, but it seems like there's a lot more guys like that now. Because they see what that does to guys. I mean, people don't men or women. Okay, because there is a female Khabib out there. People are saying, but. Yeah. I mean, people just aren't ready for it. And especially a guy who wants to stand and throw punches, they're not going to know how to handle that.
Right.
They're not going to know how to handle that. So,
So let's get through this main card of UFC 225 since this is a special episode. The day before we go to the UFC here in Chicago tomorrow. And let's just talk wrestlers because I think was it episode 1 or 2, I can't remember whichever one it was that I was spouting off, I'm gonna let my peeps here know that I come to my senses. I've watched some more game tape, and my final picks here are a little different for this main card. There's only one crazy one, and it's the first fight of the main card. It's CM Punk versus Mike Jackson. I'm still sticking with CM Punk because I want to believe. This is just I want to be like a believer in CM Punk.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I find myself not rooting against him like I kind of was the first time. I don't know Mike Jackson. I mean, they both lost to Mickey Gall, excuse me. We'll see what happens, man. I mean, CM Punk, Phil Davis, whatever, or Phil Brooks? Phil Davis.
Phil Brooks.
Yeah, Phil Brooks, yeah. He's saying he's training up in Milwaukee. He's been there for the last, year and a half since he's lost, training and stuff like that.
He's been there for like 3.5, 4 years now.
I think this will be a better gauge of how, because he never fought amateur.
Right.
So he's just jumping into fighting professionally.
He was just winning WWE titles and stuff. Yeah.
So at least Mike Jackson only has one professional fight. Now I'm going to pick Mike Jackson as like a second round knockout. I think we finally get to see like some CM Punk throw some strikes and stuff like that. I think we actually get to, instead of him just sprinting across the octagon, getting taken down, and then just getting choked out by Mickey Gall. We're not going to see that again.
Oh, okay.
I think we're actually going to get to see CM Punk try to show what he's been working on for 3.5 years.
So since we basically have 6 months left in this year, I forgot to tell you, Justin, so you're going to learn right now as the listeners are going to learn, is we're going to do main card picks, and the winner between you and I is going to get a little trophy at the end of the year for pure bragging rights. And so whoever wins it with, the most correct picks, it's going to sit by you the whole next year until, one of us wins or whatever. And we're probably even starting in January, we're going to do like fan picks too. So then they can join in with us. And so that way, if the fans win, then like the trophy has to sit away from us and we just get to look at it all year. But the winner gets the bragging rights. So it's going to start with us in year one. And it starts with this card right here.
Okay.
And so we already have one differing pick in the first one, and let it be on record that it is CM Punk versus Mike Jackson, and we're split on it.
I'll take Mike Jackson with the knockout.
That's wild. All right, so let's move on. Arlovsky versus Taya.
Oh, I've been talking about this guy for a long time since we've started, working on this podcast. I'm a big Tai Tuivasa fan. I think he knocks out Andre Arlovsky in the first round.
Man, that's a bold statement, my friend.
I mean, I'm, as much as I like these two guys, and, it kind of stinks that I have to pick against Andre since he is a guy who trains in Chicago or has trained in Chicago and stuff like that. But
he's a Mike Jackson guy.
I'm also a little surprised that this fight is on the pay-per-view, but that's a different story. That's for, we can maybe talk about that at a different time or whatever. But
I said Mike, it's Greg Jackson.
I just think Tai Tuivasa is I think he's that injection that the heavyweight division needs so badly, and he has just explosions in his hands ready to and it's just waiting to go off. And not to say Andre Arlovsky can't, shock the world and get a victory here, but we're making picks here. I'm taking Tai Tuivasa for the first round knockout.
I like it, but you're still going to be wrong again, my friend. I'm going 2-0 here because I'm going to pick Arlovsky by decision. He's on a 2-fight win streak right now, and your boy he just hasn't fought a big name yet. This is his first test, and I think that Andre gets it done with a unanimous decision after 3 rounds because he's fighting in Chicago, which he has ties to, like you were just saying. So I feel like when people have, like that hometown that they're fighting for, they just do better. And I feel like Arlovsky is just going to do better in this fight. So that brings us to the third fight, which is Holly Holm versus Megan Anderson. This fight has so many implications to it. The winner's going to get Cyborg. And the question is, do you want to see Holly?
I don't think if Holly Holm wins, she's getting Cyborg again. I don't know if anybody really wants to see that again.
Well, I mean, as long as take out Amanda Nunes's chances of getting Cyborg over both of these, who else besides Amanda Nunes is going to get Cyborg other than the winner of this fight?
That's the problem. There's really nobody.
The UFC is banking so hard on Megan Anderson to win this fight, and honestly, so am I.
Yeah, we talked about it before. I mean, I've looked at, I went back and watched Megan Anderson's, previous fights and stuff like that, and, she's definitely an aggressor. She likes to, press the issue and, and keep moving forward and stuff like that. And I think Holly Holm, I think that's going to pose problems for Megan Anderson. I mean, because that's what Holly Holm does best. She's a counter striker. Now, she didn't really damage Cyborg really with anything, but I think that's her. She's fighting out of her weight class. I don't think Holly Holm's a 145.
I don't either, but I'm going to tell you right now, Megan Anderson is.
Yeah, so I mean,
I got Megan by decision here. I think she's going to have a lot of nerves.
This is a tough fight for me to pick. I mean, I like Holly Holm, and I think, you've even said it before in the last podcast, styles make fights, and Holly Holmes has all that boxing experience and has, counter striking and understands how people strike, and that's what Megan Anderson's strength is. I'm gonna ride your hype train and the UFC's hype train, and I'm gonna roll with you. I'm gonna go Megan Anderson wins a decision, but I would not be shocked in the slightest if Holly Holm found a way to land another head kick or something like that. And
you can never count Holly out.
I think this might be one of the tougher fights to call on this card because there is the unknown of Megan Anderson.
I think it's the toughest fight to call on this card, other than Whitaker Romero. But so we both have Megan in there. Let's keep it moving here. RDA versus Covington. So Rafael Dos Anjos versus Colby Covington. Everybody knows the backstory by now. We've talked it to death. Covington just talks a lot of crap, and it's not good. And RDA is a nice, respectful person with a lot of skills to assassinate.
He's opening up a little bit more now. He's opening up his trash talk a little bit more, saying, it's time to, show you, put you in your place, and silence you and show you respect. And I like that, but I hope that's not like the I hate to say the McGregor effect, but You know what I mean? I hope he's not like getting in his head now by talk. And by I say he, I mean Colby Covington. I hope he's not getting in RDA's head and like getting him to not. I want to beat the man more than win the fight. Which you need to go in there wanting to win the fight because the winner of this is getting Tyron Woodley, obviously because it's for the interim belt. So the winner of this is getting Woodley. So, now I love what RDA is saying because I also think that RDA is going to win the fight, and I think he submits Colby Covington at some point. That's my pick for the fight. I think RDA wins, and I just love how he's looked at 170 and striking. Even if it stays on the feet, I think RDA is a better striker, and if it goes to the ground, I think RDA's got an advantage there too. Now,
I think you said last time you picked the knockout for RDA, and now you're switching to submission.
I'm going to submission now, but I think it's gonna be one of those things where, you know what I mean? He hits him with something and wobbles him, and then takes it and just gets smart with it and takes him to the ground and then just like chokes him out or something like that.
So I'm going
to RDA submission.
I can't remember if it was episode 1 or 2, but I made the prediction that I wanted Colby Covington to win. Went back, watched a lot of his film. Of course, I remember RDA's, even though I went back and watched some of his too. But then I just started listening to Covington talk and how bad his trash talking is. Like, I think I just wanted to believe in him. I can't. I got to use my head here. RDA's going to smash this kid. And Colby Covington,
Well, you went there, so I'll jump on the bandwagon with you. If Colby Covington is not a friend of Head Cake Radio, then so be it. But I hope RDA smashes this dude.
RDA's so good. And he's such a nice guy. I like nice guys every once in a while.
Yeah, and I think Woodley just barrels through Colby Covington.
I do too. He doesn't do that. He doesn't just barrel through RDA.
If
whoever
wins this fight's getting Woodley. I mean, obviously.
I've got RDA by 4th round TKO.
Yeah, I'm gonna go RDA with like a second round submission.
And so let's jump over to our main event: Yoel Romero, the challenger, versus Robert Whitaker. And we talked earlier about ageism and how Yoel is 41, they say, and I went back and rewatched all the Romero fights, and I want to go first here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I rewatched how Yoel came out, especially like I watched the Robert Whitaker one twice, the 5-round decision, and Yoel Romero was so explosive for the first 2 rounds, and even into the third.
I watched this last night too. I went back.
With the injury that Robert Whitaker's coming off of, since that that was his last fight was Yoel, and Robert really won that fight by decision by taking over the last couple of rounds. I'm calling it now. He's going to get knocked out in the 2nd round by Yoel Romero. Yoel's on another level.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that Robert. I don't remember what happened to his knee exactly, but Joe Rogan called it in the fight. They posted it on their YouTube page, like the UFC 225 free fight, whatever. They posted Whitaker Romero won, and I did the same thing as you. I went back and rewatched it, and even after the 1st round, when they're in the corner, you hear Robert Whitaker say, "My left knee is trash." So for 4 rounds, he had to sit there and defend takedowns and, get leg kicked and stuff like that. And something's going on with his knee. I mean, now the 2nd round
makes it even more impressive that Whitaker won that first one.
Exactly, because I think Romero won the first 2 rounds. I think the 3rd round, the 3rd and the 4th round, Whitaker won because I don't remember which round it was, but in the 3rd or 4th round, Romero essentially didn't throw anything.
It was the 4th round.
Yeah, he essentially and the announcers, I think it was Brian Stan at that point. It was Brian Stan and Joe Rogan. They kept saying that too. They're like, Romero's not throwing anything here.
No, and that's why when I went back and watched the Rockhold Romero fight and Romero finished Rockhold in the 3rd round, is he just kept getting better throughout those first 3 rounds. Whereas in the 3rd round against Whitaker, his fight before that, you could see him his cardio starting to taper. But I think that Romero has figured it out. Like, he's like, oh, if I don't get in my own way, nobody's stopping me in this division, and I truly believe that right now. Yeah,
because he was absolutely gassed. Now the 5th round, he found whatever was left in his gas tank, and I think the 5th round was actually extremely close. I think that
I don't know, because Whitaker mounted him by the end of it.
He mounted him by the end, but up till that point, Romero was throwing kicks and stuff like that.
Or he didn't mount him; he got in his guard.
Yeah, you're right. But I think Romero won the first 2 rounds, and I think Whitaker won the next 2, and I think whoever won that 5th round and Whitaker-Romero won was going to win.
And that was Whitaker.
And it was Whitaker. I'd agree with you there. But I'm rolling with you again. I think we're gonna agree on these last 3 fights. It seems like Whitaker's not going anywhere though. I think since his last fight was Romero, I do think I'll agree with you. I think Romero knocks him out or finds a way to get a knockout in the 2nd round at some point. And then, but Whitaker's not going anywhere. I mean, the dude's only 25. I mean, he's
27 now.
27. But yeah, the fact that he beat a world-class athlete like this with, a bum knee and just, he looked.
Whitaker has great takedown defense, but Yoel has great takedown. So it was such a battle in that first fight. And I think we're going to see much of the same in the second one. I think that Romero's just going to put a pace on him. Like, Romero comes out of the gate, and I think, and you've seen him, that's how he's beaten. Like, he's beaten Machida in the 3rd round. He's beaten Rockhold in the 3rd round. He beat... who was the other high-level guy that he beat early in the 2nd round? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Was it Jacare?
Oh, no, excuse me. It was Chris Weidman he beat in the 3rd round. So, like, he has 3rd-round wins. He beat Tim Kennedy in the 3rd round by TKO. He beat Derek Brunson in the 3rd round. Maybe we should call a 3rd round. I'm seeing a pattern here. He's knocking people out either in the 1st or the 3rd. But I have a feeling Robert Whitaker is going to be the first one to get knocked out by him in the 2nd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not rooting for anybody in this fight, and that's what sucks about.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is what we're doing. We're picking fights.
Yeah.
It's
the
what
fans.
the
fans
do.
win. That's what happens.
Exactly. I'm not rooting for a specific person in this fight, but that's what we do. That's why we started this podcast. We pick fights. That's what we're gonna do here, and I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna go Romero with the 2nd round with a 2nd round TKO as well. Now, if Whitaker comes out and finishes him with a head kick like he did Jacare or whatever, would I be surprised? Not in the slightest. Yeah. Whoever wins this fight, I wouldn't be surprised. This is just going to be a fantastic fight. And there's one thing that I feel like we should say. We talked about this a little bit before we started recording. We are recording this a couple days out, so this card is subject to change. So just be aware of that. Just don't think that.
Yeah, this is a couple of days before Friday, so if anything happens, don't yell at us.
But up to this point, I'm probably giving it the kiss of death right now.
I was going to say, it's within fight week. If anybody's training hard right now within fight week and they get hurt, that's on them. Yeah, that's not a us problem. That's a them problem.
Just refresh my memory here.
Because Clay Guida lost his opponent, but now he's got a new one.
And I think it's a better opponent.
I do too.
Better opponent. It
Charles
makes it a better
Oliveira?
fight. Absolutely. And that's the 2nd fight of the day. That fight's going to be happening at like 5:45 in the afternoon.
That's true. We're going to be there. I'm going to try to get there early to meet Uriah Faber because I've been a fanboy of his for a long time.
Yeah, and that's just another awesome thing that the UFC is doing for this event. I mean, I don't fans and listeners outside the United Center from 1 to 5, they're having 2 waves. So I think from 1 to 3 and then from 3 to 5, the UFC is having like 12 UFC fighters, I think, just hang out.
It's gonna be a good day.
It's open to the public, so I mean, if you're in Chicago or you're if you're within Chicago, just come to the United Center. If you're a fan of the UFC, just come to the United Center and hang out and meet guys like Uriah Faber and
come hang out with Justin and I as well.
Vladimir, Ozdemir's gonna be there. Valentina Shevchenko's gonna be there. Chris Weidman's gonna be there. I mean, it's
gonna be a good day.
It's gonna be a really good day. I mean, it's just gonna be a fantastic day. It's going to be a fantastic night of fights. I am so jacked up, Stephen. I might not be able to sleep Friday night.
That's wild.
I'm telling, dude, this is...
Give you an Ambien so you can say something racist like Rosie O'Donnell.
This might be... I mean, I've never been anything like this before, and I've been... we talked about this. I've been a fan of the UFC for 20-ish years, man. I've never been anything like this
You're about
before.
to be an even bigger fan after Saturday.
Just my anticipation alone is building. I mean, me and you were going together. We've got a whole row of my friends sitting in front of us. We've got friends, people like coworkers of mine going and stuff like that. We're going to know people there. It's just going to be a great time, and I'm looking forward to it, man.
That's for sure, dude. And then they'll be back on Monday to wrap this up. Justin has some obligations, so if our schedule just doesn't work out, I will either hopefully get a guest on to do it with me, or I'll do a solo one. So look for the recap coming Monday, and hopefully I got some bragging rights from the first 2 fights, and my boy CM Punk comes through for me. But this has been a special episode 3 of Head Kick Radio. Justin, what are we?
We out.
Let's go.